Okay.
All right.
You ready?
What are we called again?
Can we be the history club, the general history? No, let's just be the history club podcast, unaffiliated with any university history club.
Hello, viewer. We are the History Club podcast, unaffiliated with UMass Lowell.
Or any school.
Or any school.
You can repeat that so I'm not laughing.
No, it's fine.
No, I do that very.
No, I like this.
You like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a pilot episode, as you can see. Okay, so first off, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Colin, the Vice President of the History Club.
I'm Campbell. I'm not going to put my last name on air, but I'm the President of the History Club.
We will beat that out. We will beat
your last name out. I am the President of the History Club the History Club
Thank
podcast.
God the email isn't updated.
The what?
Because if the email was updated, they will find your name.
No, they definitely can find my name, but
okay.
we ask that you don't look for our names.
On the top, all right, yeah, good transition. Okay, so starting off, Campbell.
Do we want to do fun facts? Or a little introduction about ourselves, or are you going to ask me a getting to know you question?
I was gonna get into a question.
That would be great. Let's just jump right in. This is the podcast. Can I give a brief overview on the podcast first? So we are a history club podcast, unaffiliated with any university. We would never
or organization.
We do not film in university property. We do not use university students. This is
just for fun.
This is just for fun. We called ourselves the History Club Podcast because we like history and we like to think of this as a club.
Yes.
And you are our third club member.
Or the other viewers are club members, not just one person.
No, yeah, like all of our viewers. You are all club members.
All right. Now getting into this, so we're both history majors.
We are, yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't start out as history majors.
We didn't.
I was a mechanical engineer at first, and then you were a poli-sci.
I was, yeah, political science.
So, but like the transition is like a very like hard conflict to like decide with yourself. So when you decided to like switch to a history major, how did that go for you?
That's a good question, Colin. So coming into college, I was a political science major, but already on my mind was a history major. I wanted to either minor in history, or I was really thinking seriously about double majoring. Yeah. And I remember my advisor, we have freshman advisors at our university, and they tell you what you can take. So I said, what would it look like if I double majored in political science and history? And she took me through it, and it would have worked, but it would have been tight, and I would have not gotten to take as many history classes as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I stuck it out with political science because I thought that was a little bit better if you were looking for a job and maybe working in a campaign or something that wasn't, necessarily history related. And then I took Intro to International Relations, and it was the worst class I've ever taken.
Yeah.
So I decided, I switched 1 month in, and I've been here ever since.
That's good. Yeah. Now, did you feel any like pressure to like stay into the major you picked from like family or anything?
They were pretty supportive when I did decide to change. I think in my head I made it a bigger thing of political science to history, when really the job prospects are about the same and actually technically better for history.
I would believe so.
Yeah. So even though like in my mind it was a big deal, they were very supportive and that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had a much more drastic change.
Yeah, so the reason I wanted to ask you, because I never really asked you about it, I feel like I told my story a lot, but
the viewers haven't heard it.
No, they haven't. Yeah, so, yeah, it was a little drastic, because, like, mechanical engineering to history, to a lot of people, like, sounds like a big leap. Like, you're kind of going from a profession where, like, in today's world, is probably going to get you a decent amount of money to, like, a history teacher, to, like, a common person, because even though, like, history teachers can make good money, on the school, it was a hard choice. And the thing is that like it's great that you have support from your family. Like at first I didn't think I really had support. I thought there was like pressure from like my parents, especially my mom, to become an engineer, because like she kind of put me on that path. I was kind of like set on being an engineer, but there was always like history in my forethought. And then like from my first semester, like I barely passed calculus. I passed calculus with a 60. My engineering class was fine. Chemistry, like 70. Like it just wasn't good. Then next semester, I was in my physics lab, and I was like, I got no motivation. So I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like I can't do this anymore. And like the thought of trying to like explain that to like my mom or my dad who like might not support that was like very like tough. But like I got out of class, I went to my mom who was like working, the same as she is. I was like, Mom, I need to talk to you. She was like, what's up? And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't be an engineer. She was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to teach history. It's like, let's do that. So like from the get-go, she was supportive. It's just that like I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So it put all the stress off.
Yeah.
And then, like, there are times, I don't know if you have them, but like during some semesters, like during like the tough times, like papers or finals, like I'll be like laying in bed at night and I'll be like, was this the right choice?
Yes.
But like every time like here with friends and like talking to professors, it certifies I did make the right choice.
Yeah. And I also think that an important note in your story, and to reveal a little bit of your background, that you went to a Voc school. You were in a Voc program for robotics. Electronics.
Yes.
But you were also on the robotics. Were you on the robotics team?
I was on the robotics
Yes,
team.
and you now coach robotics. So this was, for me, I was really conflicted about what I wanted to do generally. But this seems tougher for you because you were straying from a path that you seem to have been on.
Yeah, not only that, like I had teachers who like saw something in me who like was like, you could be a good engineer, or like I was in like for co-op, I was at a good job that like also saw like good aspects of me.
Yeah.
So like it is challenging to like have those people in the back of your mind, like knowing that when you tell them that you like strain from the path, they're gonna have those eyes of disappointment. And for a couple, like that was true.
Yeah.
I've had old teachers that have said I'm a history major now, and I see the disappointment in their eyes. But whenever I think back to them, like yes, like they helped me find a love for engineering, but like their teaching styles also drew me in.
Yeah.
Like one of my engineering teachers from my senior year of high school, like he just cared about the students.
Yeah.
And that's why I always think of him about this, because like that's how I want to be. I want to be a teacher that cares about the students. There's not a lot of them these days. Like I can go right back to math teachers who like are just yelling at students all day and no one wants to be there.
Yeah.
So like even though I did strain from the path, like they still left me with like tips or like examples for me to follow.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think, yeah, that's an important component. And I actually, if we could transition into, I think, a topic that might be interesting, something you talked about was that you mentioned that sometimes you do feel conflicted about being a history major, which I bet many of us do. You know, the job prospects are not as, they're good and they're better than people think, but they're not.
No, and it's like we said, like it's a different path than we were on. So like, you always have doubts when you make that decision. It's a life-changing decision. Yes,
for sure. But you also mentioned, you said, sometimes I have doubts, but when I'm, in a good class with a good professor, it really like makes a difference. And so I was wondering, like, do you have any memory that stands out of a time where you were like, I'm so glad I'm a history major, whether that was a class you took that was like your favorite class? Like, I don't know what your favorite class you took was, Colin.
So do you want me to go into like one of my favorite class was?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can go maybe class and then memory after if you have one.
Yeah, that's a good question because I've been in a lot of interesting classes with interesting professors.
Yeah. Can't name names.
All right.
Because we're not affiliated with any university.
We're not affiliated with any.
These are just like kind of general professor or organization.
Yeah. All right. So it's probably my methods class.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so I think when it comes to teaching, not only do you need to like the material, you need to like the person teaching it.
Yes.
And I've never like clicked with a professor on like day one. Not in the sense of like me talking to him on like a student teaching level. It's just how he taught the class. I remember he asked us like why did we become a history major? And I told you this. I did like this stupid little thing about how like, oh, I like stories of history, and the fact that like stories of like I like stories, and the fact that history has stories, but there's truth to them and they're real is really fascinating to me. I wanted to become a history major to learn more about it, which wasn't really true. It was just something that I was trying to think profoundly. No, I just wanted to become a teacher. But when he was in our group, because we were in a little group talking about it, he heard me say it, and he was like, I want you to say that to the class. And I did. And I thought he liked it. He thought it was profound, my hoping. But no, instead he like deconstructed and destroyed it and said it was just a hobby in that sense. And like even though like that sucks, it's like he wasn't afraid to do that. And I respected him for it. I think like showing like even though you're saying to a student that they are wrong doesn't mean that like you can diminish them.
Yeah.
And like he always kept that kind of stuff, and he was goofy. He knew his material. He loved teaching his material. So like that class alone, and the people like we were in that class together.
We were, yeah.
I met good friends in that class. There are some people in that class I didn't like.
No, of course. Who will not be named because we're not affiliated with any university students.
If any of you are seeing this, like you can guess if you were that person. You weren't. There's a very specific one.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, so like probably that class.
Yeah.
And then like my favorite memory is probably with that professor, because like I think what makes this place so special is our little community that we have.
Yeah.
Like I never even knew about this place history department. It was like when I was looking at schools, this was like I didn't look at the school for that. It was like a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And like this community that we have is just amazing.
Yeah.
And one day I was talking to that professor, and he was like what? It was about a paper. I got like an 80s, like 4, but I thought I should have like done better. But no, I thought I did. I should have got a worse grade. I didn't think it was up to par. Thought it was mediocre. I was like, why did you give me this grade? And he did deconstruction and say what was bad about it, but then he looked at me in the eye and he was like, because Colin, believe the last name, is a good writer. And I always been negative of my writing. I never think that my writing is good. I think I'm more of a talker than a writer. And because I have some papers where professors do like 17 grammar mistakes, or they'll be like, this doesn't really add up, it doesn't make sense. So I always like think less of myself as a writer. But when he said that to me, it was like a moment of relief, proudness. I like almost cried because you had someone who didn't need to say it, but he felt like saying it because it was true to him.
Yeah.
And like him saying that to me meant the world to me.
Yeah.
So I think that was like one of my favorite memories of history, of being a history major.
Yeah, that's great. And actually, like, to go into maybe my class a little, when I was thinking about that question, what was your favorite class? The methods class that we took together did come to mind. That is, I mean, not only because I like learning about doing history and I liked all the things we discussed in that class.
Yeah.
To be honest, the thing I remember most fondly about methods was meeting you and meeting, some of our other very close friends.
Yeah.
And finally feeling like it's a community. And I think that's the beauty about this space, is it's like there is a community here. And I don't think there's been a history class I've taken since where I've gone into the room and I haven't known somebody in the room. I haven't had somebody to sit next to talk to. And I think that's really great. And
it's really amazing how that class, like, we came out of that with like a tight-knit group that none of us would probably go into realizing that. No,
I think 3 of those people in the group had a different class together and never talked.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that was like that. I always remember that class as like one of those special times in college.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if you would agree, but I think college changed for me when taking the class. I think there's a few moments in my college career when I can look back and say the decision to take this class or join this club changed how my college experience went. Taking that class, and it was funny because there's actually somebody who tried to talk me out of it, who tried to say, take it a different semester with this professor because, she's really good.
Yeah.
And even though I was open to that, I really wanted to get methods out of the way, and so I was like, I was a little conflicted, but I decided to take it. And to think what would have happened if I had not taken it, and I wouldn't have met all of you.
No, exactly, because like before then, I was just how any person in college were like your friend. Coming into college, most of my friends were North majors when I transitioned to history. So we couldn't really see each other that much. So I was just like, I was just on my own. Like I had like a couple of friends from classes, but nothing like sustainable.
Yeah.
I was like always in different buildings, just chilling. But like after that class, like I found like friends I could always talk to, always hang out with. I found the area that we're in right now, which is not connected to the school whatsoever.
This is actually our house.
Yeah.
We're roommates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that like that like not only did I find like a group of people to belong to, I found a place where like we could just always chill and hang out at.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this place. And I think that's something that, as much as this university is great, and I would recommend this university to anyone, I don't think every department on this campus has that. And I don't think every history department on other campuses, again, not that this is affiliated with a university, but they don't necessarily have that either.
No, I agree. I think I think the professors go way beyond the credit that they deserve, because I've never met a group of educators who not only love the content but like truly want to see you succeed.
Yes.
Like I there's been many of times where like I've like asked for like to pass stuff in late or do this or do this, that like they took it, like they didn't need to give it to me, but they did because they knew that I needed a break.
Yeah.
Like every time I talked to them, like not only were I just like having casual conversations, it was like I just needed to talk to someone, and they were always open. Yeah. And you don't find that anywhere.
No. And I think really that is one of the unique things about this place. And, you know, if this was a department space where students hung out and faculty offices were all down the hall, if that were the case, it would be such a unique environment, because I think that I would certainly say that even, you know, the teachers I knew the best in high school, you know, I look back and obviously I knew one or two of them very well. But, you know, it's a different thing here. And not to diminish that, but, you know, I'm seeing these professors, most of the times I'm talking to them are outside of class hours. Yes. And it's casual conversations. They come by, they stop at the printer, they say hello. Yeah. And that's, you know, something that I think a lot of people don't get with their professors. Because you have to go to office hours, and you really only go to office hours if you have a problem. Exactly. Here you get to engage with them. You get to engage with your classmates in a very casual, relaxed environment. And so, like, thinking about, like, my favorite memories from this department, it's hard to pick one that stands out, because it's just every day coming in and somebody says something stupid and we're constantly laughing or constantly having fun, even when the essays are tough. But I think it's moments like that where you realize that you have, like, an incredible community. I agree with what you're saying. And going back to the professors, like, the fact that we're going to be, like, future teachers, like, every time, like, they do this kind of stuff, like, it leaves something with us. Yeah, it does. Like, I've definitely, like, every time I take a class with these people, or even, like, taught them afterwards, like, there's always something that I take and will probably, like, incorporate into my teaching style. Yeah. Because, like, they all have their own unique ways, and, like, you can always take something from them. Yeah. And I think that's something that sometimes I think about, how, you know, I do want to teach high school, and I am very excited for that possibility, but, like, the little dream in my back of the head that I would really like to have in my dream job would to be a professor. Yeah. And I don't think I'm going to pursue that, because PhDs are tough and the job market is tough. Yeah. But it really is, like, an interesting thing to think about from time to time, that there are, you know, 12 people down, you know, this fictional hallway in my mind who have PhDs, who have my dream job, and who have worked very hard to succeed that. This is not an easy career. Yeah. And they've published, you know, some of them, you know, 8 or 9 books. Mm-hmm. And just how accomplished they are in their field, and yet they're still around. Really, it's students first, always, over research. There is not a professor I've had who I think cares more about research than teaching. Mm-hmm. And they're always here, whether or not that's a teaching problem or just, like, dumb jokes in the department. No, exactly. Yeah, no, they really do care about the students first. I remember, like, in one of my ancient classes, or ancient history classes, it was last semester, I was kind of struggling from, like, other stuff, and I was just, like, going through stuff. And I was, like, already a week behind on paper. Yeah. But, like, something was coming up, and I needed to work on that, because, like, to me that was more of a priority with school. So the never-ending, like, nervousness and, like, pressure of that paper kept on getting to me while I was trying to work on the other. So I was like, Professor, I'm like, I'm in the trenches right now. I know that, like, I'm already 1 week late with this, but I just need another week to just bang this out. And because of this, and that. And she was like, Colin, it's ancient history. It can wait. Go do that, but, like, please get the paper in during that time. And, like, that just meant so much to me. Yeah. No, that's great. And that's the thing. I mean, we both care about history, I think, very intensely. Yeah. We take what we do here very seriously. We love History Club and everything about that. but also like we are people outside of this department.
Yeah.
And even though I think this holds a very special place in our hearts, and we spend too much time here.
Yeah.
How many hours have we been here? This is the second day of this fictional school, and we've been here.
It's like a fifth home to me.
A fifth home.
Yeah.
So it's pretty far down the list. I would say it's the second home to me.
I feel like it's a little too much to say second, and
Okay.
I feel like if you asked me what's the third, fourth, I couldn't give you an answer, so fifth sounds right.
Fifth sounds right. Okay. So Colin has other priorities, other hobbies, that he prioritizes over this department. I do not.
In this fictional department.
In this fictional department.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we love it. Nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think this fictional place has been a changing point of my life in college.
Yeah, I agree. So we're wrapping up the end of our podcast episode. This one I think is going to be a little bit shorter than the others.
Yeah.
In the next weeks, we're planning to have guests on from our fictional history club in our history department.
Yes.
To talk about their experiences in history and just like, goof off, joke around, because that's what we like to do here. But we're going to wrap this up with quick fire questions. We're going to think of them on the spot.
I got some.
You got some? Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
we'll go back and forth.
Okay, so when the professors ask the questions and you answer, what was your biggest failure of answering a question?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So there's one that jumps to mind, and you've heard the story, but the audience has not, and it really is one of the moments that haunts me. So I was in my French Revolution class, which was, along with methods, I think my favorite class. It's pretty tough to pick between the two.
Yeah.
And we were doing a thing about Napoleon.
Yeah.
And so this class was at 5 o'clock, and I had not done the reading the night before because I had been busy with stuff, and I was here all day, and I was planning to get things done, but actually we ended up sitting in this fictional universe on the floor right here with one of my professors from a different class, just goofing off, which really kind of shows the vibe. And so I only did about half of the reading. And so the professor asked a question, I believe about Napoleon's, religious policy.
Yeah.
And I answered it, and he said that I was wrong, which is a rare thing from this professor. So he calls student, he did it gently, and then I got, what's the word? I felt regretful that I didn't do the reading, and so after class, I went up to him, I apologized for not doing the reading. And so I would say that is probably my worst moment in a classroom. I don't know why I apologized. I regret it to this day. But that was probably I'm sure I've been more wrong in other situations. We talked about it afterwards, and I actually did read the section that the question was about, which was the worst part, and I kind of got it half right.
Yeah.
But I would say that is my worst moment.
Okay.
Do you want to answer yours?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure. I think it was in Byzantine history related topic class, and we were talking about Procopius's secret history, and the last question, it was a group discussion class, and the last question was what do you think he's telling the truth or not? And it goes around the room. The professor started. It was like a U.
Yes.
So I was on the very end of one side, and he starts from the other side. So that means that all the obvious or good takes are already taken. So you get points based off talking. So I need to come up with something that at least sounded profound.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do in your first couple of years of college. You try to at least be profound or get recognition from a professor.
Yeah.
And I said one of the. I was basically I think he was lying. No, I think he was telling the truth, but he was hiding something, which makes no sense when you're reading Procopius' secret history. Right, he's all in, or he's telling the truth, or he's lying the shit. There's no in between really, in the major details.
Yeah.
And just watching the professor just eye you down while you're trying to explain something that you don't even believe in this halfway through is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
You just want to die.
Yeah. That was tough.
That was mine.
But if that makes you feel better, I was also in that class. We were not friends at the time.
No.
And I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
So, you're okay.
Okay.
My quick fire question.
Yeah.
You pretty famously in this department, or at least with me, this is something we talk about a lot, you're not a reader. And I understand that.
Yeah. Do
you have a favorite history book, nonfiction, that you've read either for a class or outside of class?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
damn, I'm trying to remember all the books that I read that I was like, I kind of like that book.
Kinda is where it caps out.
Kind of where it caps out. It's kind of coming back to like, what was it? Tony Horwitz, Confederates in the Attic. Yes. All right. So that was during our methods class.
That was.
And the whole, because like there was discussions about like what is a history, what's a historian, what's a historian not, and basically it was like a historian is a person who studies history and gets paid.
Yeah.
And it was like our Civil reactors historians, because like they do preserve pieces of history, but not like important or significant.
Yeah.
Like we don't like, it's not really important that we know exactly how the Confederates detailed or like sewed their uniforms.
Yeah.
It's very micro. But reading that book, it was very interesting. It was about a guy who met a guy who did reenactments. It was like a hardcore like reenactive Confederate, and he does like a journey with him throughout the South. And I love the Civil War. So like not only is he like tackling problems relating around the modern sense of what the Civil War means, but like with racism and slavery and all that afterwards. But like just his story is about like traveling down to the South and what he like gets from the Civil War, like his thoughts of like the location he's at connecting to the Civil War.
Yeah. No, that's a great answer. And we've talked about this before, but that book, I read part of it in high school.
Yeah.
And that was really what sparked my interest in history. So I would say if I had to give an answer, it would probably either be that book or a book that you should read if you ever get up to reading. Tony Horwitz wrote a book, Spying on the South.
Yeah.
Which actually follows a writer through his 1856, I believe, book, where he journeys through the American South. And Tony Horwitz goes back there, and basically his whole thesis is the South is still kind of where it was. And it's very, like, obviously there's been a lot of changes, 1856. This was published, I think, 2017. But there's still a lot of poverty. There's still a lot of issues. There's still a lot of racism.
Yeah.
It's very similar to what you were describing with Confederates in the Attic. But I think that is such a, like, powerful thing to say, what is history? Why do we do it? But do it through this story rather than a textbook. And
no, exactly. I think that is interesting, especially because of like how involved the Civil War is in today's modern society.
Yeah.
People don't know, or people don't want to really know, but it's very deep in there, and especially like the way he talks. Yeah. Because he's more of like a conversational writer. Yeah. And I relate a lot with that because I'm kind of like that too. Yeah. So I really like his style of writing.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Do you have any more quick fire questions, or are we ready to wrap it up?
I got another. So
all right, let's do one more round.
It basically went around the other one, but it was what was like one of the moments in a class that you answered a question. It was like a really like uplifting moment.
That is a very good question. I'd have to think a little bit hard about that. Do you have one off the bat that you can share, and then I'll think. Yeah.
So one problem that you can come across in college is that if you're in a classroom and there's a question that's meant to be discussion, and you say your opinion, and you have like 3 different people that disagree with you. Yes. So it's 1v3, 1v2. You could be against the whole class, and sometimes there's a lot of pressure with that. And you sometimes you can buckle down, or you can keep focused. And it was in our Civil War class, and it was about the reading about how Southern woman kind of had a sense of freedom during the Civil War, but I kind of disagree with that, and I think it was I think it was saw like that, but in reality it wasn't. It was something based off that, and I had a couple of people arguing with me on it, but luckily I talked to the professor beforehand, and he agreed with my point, so it gave me more backing. But just holding down my position, and every time someone that went against me brought up something, I would come right back and just defend my point. And sometimes when I do that in class, it doesn't really work well. Yeah. But that was a time where I was very successful with it. Yeah. And I was very proud of that. Yeah. I do actually kind of remember that one, or I do remember you having the point prepared and bringing it into class. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I was thinking, and mine is a little bit non-traditional. It wasn't necessarily an answer, but it was in our methods class. Yeah. And we had to do
an activity that was probably one of my favorite classes, like class blocks that I've ever been in college. I think you might know what this is.
Yeah.
We were learning how to footnote. And
Oh, okay.
so what we had to do was we had a list of articles and we had to footnote them for homework.
Yeah.
And the thing was that everyone would be called up to the board and they would have to write a footnote out.
Yeah.
And you would write it bit by bit and the whole class would watch you. And as soon as they thought you were wrong about something, they would yell out and call out.
I remember this now.
And I was very proud because I completed a footnote. Nobody.
You nailed it. I remember that.
I had criticisms or I had people try to challenge me, but they were unsuccessful. And so I wrote a footnote from start to finish, and I believe I was the only one to successfully do that. Because once you finished a footnote, you sat down. So I was the only one to sit down without having gotten called out or gotten called in midway through. And so I think that I was very proud of that. And of course, it was a basic footnote, but I do,
No, I remember that, and it was very impressive because, like, at least me and the people I worked with, because I worked with a couple people on that, we were struggling on that side of it. So for you to go out there and nail it, it was like, wow.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the things that I like about history personally is, like, the methodology of it and how we do it all. And so as much as I do joke about, footnotes and editing and all this stuff, that stuff's very important to me. Just like military history is important to you.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you like a lot of things.
Yeah.
Can I wrap it up with one quick fire question, or do you want to finish? Do you have?
I have a little fun fact, but if you want to do your question,
do your fun fact.
You want to do your question?
I think you should do your fun fact.
Okay, I learned this today in my graduate class.
Okay.
So do you know the origins of the dollar sign?
I do not.
Okay, so this is so funny. So take the U of U from U.S.
Okay.
No. Yeah, and then do the S.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where the dollar sign comes from.
I did not know that.
Because like usually like today you usually just do one line, but two lines, and that's the U.
Yeah.
And so U.S.
Wow, that's great. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Don't look. Hey, don't.
We have an audience here. We have a peanut gallery.
Yeah, that looks like I'm totally wrong right now.
Okay.
No, try it out on the phone.
I found that out and I was blown away.
The peanut gallery is not mic'd, so.
No, what?
Yeah. Can I show it?
Okay. Yeah. We have an audio visual presentation.
Yeah. Look at that. See, you have the U, which are the two lines, and then you put the S, and that's the dollar sign.
That's great.
Mine's blown.
That's awesome. That's a great fun fact.
Yeah.
So can we wrap it up with our last question? Would that be okay?
Oh yeah.
I think we've talked a lot about this department and what it's done for us, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
But we are, of course, at the end of the day, the History Club podcast.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if there is maybe a History Club event that was your favorite, or a History Club memory that was your favorite, and if so, like, what is that?
I probably like. Alright, honestly, like but I think my favorite was...
We can't put that on the thing. We're going to get canceled, bro. What is your favorite History Club memory?
Probably one of the PowerPoint nights when I did, like, top 10 things I would steal from a museum.
That was great.
I really love that, but can I talk about the revolution joke or no?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, like, yeah, that was a very fun one, but then I was going to put a little joke about revolutionizing against the current... Not the previous History Club president.
Not us, because we're
no, yeah. Because I was on the E-bar at that time. I wasn't really serious about it, but like I just had the joke because we were friends. I was like, I'm gonna revolt against you.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it, but like the presentation was really fun.
Yeah. No, that was great. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I think it is hard to pick.
Yes.
I actually weirdly remember the first meeting we ever had. Or maybe it was not our first. I think it was our cookie party.
Yes.
The first semester, me and the previous president, before me, ran History Club.
Yeah.
And we kind of started fresh. Like we were not involved in History Club before we became the E-board. And so I just remember having a cookie party in here, and it was uncontrollable, and it was loud, and there were too many people, and there were crumbs all over the table, and we had to clean up afterwards. But also the feeling of, like, we had no idea if anybody was going to show up because
Yeah.
we were just doing this on our own.
Mm-hmm.
We were still kind of meeting people in our major, like we had met you and one of our other friends, but like we didn't know a ton of people who were history majors.
Yeah.
And so to just show up and see all the people there, it was really a wonderful time. And we had a blast. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was a great first episode.
that was great. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll be
Yeah.
back next week with our first special guest. So make sure to tune in for that because we're going to be hearing more stories, more perspectives on this fictional department we've created. And we're so happy to see it. We're so
With our
excited to
fictional
see it.
hallway.
What?
With the fictional hallway.
Yeah, it's not a real hallway. That would be, I think, a very strange office layout if it was just a very long hallway where they get smaller. The offices get smaller as you go down.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be bad design work. So it doesn't exist. But if
Yeah.
it did, this is maybe what the students would say.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you for watching.